This week we're going to be taking a look at a classic game with one of the strangest names in retro gaming history. Kokotoni Wilf. Released in 1984, it was the first game to be developed by Elite Systems under their new name. Before then, the fledgling company was known as Richard Wilcox Software and had only produced one game up until that time. The aerial combat game Blue Thunder. Now, even though Kokotoni Wilf was released for the Commodore 64 and ZX Spectrum on the 15th of September 1984, Amstrad owners had to wait until 1989 to get their hands on the game, and even then it was through Elite's budget range, the Encore label. But at least they only had to fork out $2.99 for the game, as opposed to paying full price 5 years earlier. There was also a competition tied to the game. The first 100 people who completed Kokotoni Wilf and sent in the secret message from the game's end screen were awarded a free copy of Elite's next game, The Fall Guy, based on the classic 80s TV show starring Lee Majors. Not only that, there was a special limited edition version with several different screens from the retail release, and this was only available directly from Elite at the same cost as the standard version. The only thing is, this was only advertised in the inlay of the game, so in order to send off for the special edition, you had to already own a copy of the game. Now, I didn't play this game as a kid. In fact, I only learnt of its existence from my friends Adrian and Matthew as they played Kokotoni Wilf on their C64 back in the day. And seeing as they celebrate their 50th birthdays this week, I thought I'd pay homage to their second favourite game, after FIFA that is, and I'm not reviewing a bloody football game. So you play as the titular character Kokotoni Wilf, who is the assistant of some ageing magician named Ulrich, who discovered that there had once existed a dragon amulet, fragments of which had been scattered throughout time. The great magician wanted to recover all the fragments, but he was too old to undertake the mission himself. So instead, he gives Wilf some angel-type wings and sends him across various time zones to collect the pieces of the amulet. The object of the game is to collect all the fragments of the amulet on each level before you can move on to the next. Each level is based on a different historical era, starting with prehistoric times, complete with dinosaurs. The second time zone is the medieval era, and this time you're evading cannonballs, archers and axe-wielding knights. After you've collected the amulet pieces in 960 AD, it's on to 1642, with alchemy, druids and burning witches at the stake. Survive this, then you're transported to 1706 and you find yourself on a galleon in the middle of the War of the Spanish Succession. Level 5 takes you to the then modern day of 1984, where you have to avoid planes and helicopters at Heathrow, giant pigeons at Trafalgar Square, and even Jet Set Willy in the gent toilets of the London Underground. The final level is set in the futuristic world of 2001, and the enemies this time are robots, spaceships and rockets. Collect all 63 pieces of the amulet and you eventually find out why the magician Ulrich needed them. It was just to let sleeping dragons lie. The controls are very simple. Left, right and up to keep Wilf airborne by flapping his wings. Letting go of the joystick and he'll start to descend with some gravity and inertia effects, similar to Elite's Airwolf game. Wilf can't kill any enemies as he has been transported back in time unarmed, so it's best to avoid them at all costs, as almost everything kills you on contact. When you've collected all fragments, a flashing time gate appears and you go through to the next era. Now, all enemies have a set path that they follow, so once you learn this, it should be easy to sneak past them, in theory. The thing is, there is some serious delay from when you move the joystick to the character actually responding on screen. So in this game, precision is key. And as this is a flip screen game as opposed to scrolling, enemies are sometimes placed in ways that feel unfair as the screen transitions catch you off guard. Another thing that lets this down is the sound. The only sound effects in the game is the flapping of your wings, and this brings me on to the music. So there's only 2 tracks in the entire game. The title screen music loops after 8 seconds, and the in-game music, for reasons unknown, is Consider Yourself from the musical Oliver. Again, this loops and gets more than a little irritating after a while. Apparently the creator of Oliver, Lionel Bart, successfully sued Elite over the use of the track, according to another game composer legend, Mark Cuxey. So, like I said at the beginning, this was also released on the ZX Spectrum and eventually the Amstrad CPC. So what are those versions like? Let's take a look at the Amstrad port first. And the first thing you'll notice is it looks so much nicer than the Commodore version. The use of multicolour sprites on the enemies and obstacles for a start, the heads-up display at the bottom of the screen looks much more impressive, and that's about it. The C64 had slow and sluggish controls, but the CPC version moves way too fast. So on the Commodore you didn't have enough time to move out of the way of an enemy due to the lag, whereas here you have to have lightning fast reflexes if you're going to avoid anything. Another thing that lets this version down is there's no music anywhere in the game, but maybe that is a blessing after the horrendous tune on the Commodore. Now for the Specky, and I have to say, this is probably the best version of Kokotoni Wilf out of all 3 ports. It's not the best looking version, but it plays extremely well. So with the other 2 ports, in order to keep Wilf in the air, you push up on the joystick. In this version, you press the fire button. The longer you hold the button, the higher Wilf ascends. So it's so much easier to control him, making avoiding enemies a piece of cake. Again, like the Amstrad, there's no music, just very basic sound effects, but this doesn't detract from the overall experience, and I would happily play this version over the other 2. The magazines at the time gave Kokotoni Wilf pretty mixed reviews. Commodore User gave it a decent 4 out of 5, whereas Your Commodore only 2. Crash awarded the Spectrum version a well-deserved 84%, but Sinclair User only 6 out of 10. And Amstrad Action gave the Encore budget version a low 57%. As for computer and video games, well, I'm not sure what they were smoking when they reviewed the C64 version. So what did you think of Kokotoni Wilf? Did you have this game back in the day? If so, which version did you have? And did you enjoy it? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, bye!